Ladies and gentlemen, if you thought this Wimbledon second round was going to be ordinary, tear up that bracket right now, because the tournament has just produced the kind of collision that nobody designs, nobody predicts, and nobody can look away from once it appears. Two matches. Two very different stories, one historic breakthrough, one stunning takedown of a legend. And now those stories are no longer running beside each other. They are about to crash directly into one another on Thursday. At the center of it is Alex, the 21-year-old from the Philippines, seated 29th, carrying something far bigger than a ranking beside her name. She walked into Wimbledon and did what no Filipina had ever done in the Open era. She won a singles match in the main draw of the most iconic tournament in tennis. Not a small achievement, not a nice little milestone, a national first. For decades, Wimbledon has belonged to the great tennis powers, the established systems, the countries that produce champions year after year. And then Alex steps onto the grass, looks across the net, and delivers a performance that was not tentative, not nervous, not overwhelmed by the stage. It was ruthless. 6-1-6-2, 78 minutes. That was the entire match. She did not sneak through. She did not survive by luck. She controlled it, accelerated through it, and left with the kind of clean scoreline that tells everyone watching that this was not just about emotion, this was about level. And yet the emotion matters. It matters because when Alex looked around and saw Filipino fans filling the seats, waving her forward, making their presence felt in a place where Philippine tennis history had never looked like this before, she understood the size of the moment. She even joked afterward about how Filipinos always seem to appear when you least expect them. But beneath the smile, there was something real there. This was not just a player winning a first-round match. This was an athlete becoming a reference point for an entire country in a sport that has rarely belonged to them on the biggest stages. And while that was happening, while one side of Wimbledon was watching a new national chapter open, another court was watching a completely different kind of story collapse. Serena Williams was back. 20-3 Grand Slam singles titles. One of the most important careers the sport has ever seen. A player whose name still changes the temperature of a stadium the moment it appears on the schedule. The expectation around her match was obvious. Fans did not come hoping for a routine afternoon. They came hoping for one more run, one more surge, one more reminder that greatness does not always leave when the calendar says it should. Across from her stood Maya, a 22-year-old Australian ranked 87th. On paper, this was supposed to be Serena's stage. The crowd knew it. The tennis world knew it. Even the shape of the draw seemed to be pointing toward a dream matchup. Alex against the woman who inspired her to pick up a racket in the first place. That match was sitting there, glowing in the distance. Then Maya walked in and tore up the script. She served with authority from the opening games. She attacked early. She kept points short. She did not play like someone waiting for Serena to decide the outcome. She played like someone who had arrived with a plan and absolutely no interest in being part of anyone else's comeback story. The first set went to Maya, and suddenly the mood shifted. Then Serena answered the way only Serena can. She found a second gear, fought her way into a tiebreak, and took the second set. For a few minutes, Wimbledon had exactly what it wanted. The sound rose, the belief came flooding back. The idea of a Serena revival, a deep run, maybe even something impossible, was alive again. That is usually where a younger player tightens up. That is usually where the arena starts playing against you, where every roar feels like pressure, where every miss feels heavier than the last. Maya did not fold. She steadied herself. She returned to the serve, the timing, the aggressive first strike tennis that had given her the opening set. And in the deciding set, she found the break that ended the match and ended the fantasy. Serena was out. The comeback story was gone before it could gather full speed. And the Alex versus Serena dream match, the one that would have tied a young history maker to her childhood idol on Wimbledon grass, disappeared in a single afternoon. But tennis has a strange way of replacing one story with another. Because Maya did not just remove Serena from Alex's path, she stepped into that path herself. And that matters because Alex and Maya are not strangers. This is not a fresh matchup with no emotional residue. This is not two young players meeting for the first time and simply fighting for a third-round place. There is already history here. And for Alex, it is the kind that does not just vanish because a new season begins. Go back roughly a year to Eastbourne, the grass court event that sits right before Wimbledon. Alex and Maya met in the final. Maya took the first set. Alex responded and controlled the second. Then the match came down to a deciding tiebreak, the kind of finish that burns itself into memory because every point starts to feel like a verdict. 12-10. That was the final margin in the tiebreak. Maya won the title. Alex walked away with the loss. Those are the defeats players remember, not because they were outclassed, but because they were close enough to touch. One better swing, one cleaner decision, one return landing a few inches deeper, and the outcome changes. Those matches follow players. They sit in the back of the mind. They become private assignments. Now Wimbledon has brought that assignment back. Same opponent, same surface, bigger stage, higher visibility, much heavier meaning. For Alex, this is about far more than a second round result. She has already made Philippine tennis history at Wimbledon. The question now is whether she can extend that moment, protect it, and turn one historic win into a run. She is carrying national attention, personal momentum, and the memory of a painful loss to the very player now standing in her way. For Maya, the challenge is different, but just as sharp. Beating Serena Williams is the biggest win of her tournament so far, and maybe one of the biggest of her career. But the next match determines how that win is understood. Was it a spectacular one-day eruption, or was it the announcement of a player who can keep backing it up on grass? That is the pressure waiting for her. And stylistically, this matchup is fascinating because these two do not want the same kind of tennis match. Maya wants immediate damage. She wants the serve to set the tone, the first ball to create advantage, and the rally to be finished before the opponent can settle into patterns. On grass, that approach is dangerous. The surface rewards decisiveness. The bounce stays low, timing becomes uncomfortable. A strong server can turn return games into survival missions. That is exactly what she showed against Serena. She did not wait around. She did not build points slowly. She imposed fast, direct pressure and trusted that her weapons would hold up. If Maya serves at that level again, Alex will not be dealing with a normal service game. She will be dealing with a wall that has to be chipped away point by point. Alex's route is different. She is not trying to turn the match into a pure power contest. Her advantage comes from movement, shape, patience, and the ability to change the look of a rally. Her heavy top spin can open angles. Her footwork can extend points that other players would lose quickly. Her best version forces opponents to hit extra balls, to defend one more corner, to make one more decision under pressure. That is the key. Alex cannot allow Maya to live in three-shot exchanges all afternoon. She has to stretch the rallies. She has to make Maya work sideways, forward, backward, and then sideways again. She has to move the match into those longer exchanges where legs, lungs, patience, and shot tolerance become just as important as first strike power. This is not simply power versus defense. It is tempo versus disruption. Maya wants the match fast and clean. Alex wants it layered, physical, and mentally demanding. Whoever controls that rhythm probably controls the result. The early games will matter enormously. If Maya comes out serving freely and grabs an early lead, the memory of Eastbourne becomes louder. Alex will remember what it felt like to chase. She will remember the set she lost, the tiebreak that slipped away, and the title that went to the other side of the net. That does not mean she will panic. But pressure has a way of reviving old images. There is a version of this match where Maya lands the first punch, races through quick holds, and forces Alex to fight uphill before she has even settled into the occasion. That is the dangerous path for Alex. Grass can move quickly. One loose service game can decide a set. One bad stretch can put a player under immediate scoreboard pressure. But there is another version. There is a version where Alex walks in with the confidence of someone who has just made history and refuses to let the previous meeting define this one. A version where she reads Maya's serve better with each return game, lengthens the rallies, absorbs the first wave, and gradually turns the match from a sprint into a grind. That is where Maya will be tested. Because after beating Serena, the challenge is no longer whether she can rise for one massive occasion. She has already done that. The challenge is whether she can reproduce the level when the emotional conditions are different. Against Serena, the crowd and the narrative were enormous. Against Alex, the tension is more personal, more tactical, and more connected to recent history. That can be even harder. Most pre-match discussion leans toward Alex, and it is not difficult to understand why. Her season has been building. Her first round performance was commanding. She is seated, confident, and clearly comfortable enough on the grass to punish an opponent without needing a long adjustment period. But discounting Maya after what she just did would be a mistake. You do do not take out Serena Williams at Wimbledon by accident. You still have to walk into that arena, handle the noise, execute the serve, survive the comeback, and finish the match when the entire building is hoping you do not. Maya did all of that. So this is not a match where one player has all the momentum and the other is simply trying to keep up. Both arrive with something powerful. Alex arrives with national history and a chance at revenge. Maya arrives with a career-shaping upset and a chance to prove it was not a single flash. That is why Thursday has become one of the most compelling early round matches of the tournament. And there is more waiting behind it. The winner is projected to move toward a third-round meeting with either Karolina Muchova or Sabalenka, the five-time Grand Slam champion. If Sabalenka is the one who comes through, that creates another possible storyline, especially for Alex. She stunned Sabalenka at the Miami Open, and Sabalenka later answered on clay in Madrid. That would be another layer, another rivalry, another emotional charge. But none of that can matter yet. Not for Alex, not for Maya. Because if Alex starts thinking about Sabalenka before solving Maya, she is giving oxygen to the wrong fire. And if Maya starts living off the Serena win instead of preparing for Alex, she risks turning the biggest result of her tournament into a dead end. This is the moment that separates a headline from a run. For Alex, the assignment is clear. Protect her serve, extend points, test Maya's patience, and refuse to let the match become a serving exhibition. She has to make Maya feel the weight of every rally. She has to make the Australian hit enough balls that the clean winners become harder to find. For Maya, the mission is just as clear. Keep the scoreboard pressure on, make first serves, attack before Alex can organize, and avoid getting dragged into the kind of physical chess match that favors the seeded player. It sounds simple. It will not be. Because matches like this are not played only with tactics. They are played with memory. They are played with crowd noise. They are played with the pressure of what a win could mean and what a loss could reopen. Alex will know that a victory would not only move her into the third round, it would close a chapter that has been sitting open since Eastbourne. It would turn the loss from a scar into a stepping stone. It would give Philippine fans another moment to hold on to, another reason to believe this run is not finished. Maya will know that a victory would do something equally important. It would prove that Serena's upset was not the ceiling. It would show that she can defeat a legend one round and then handle a seeded rising opponent the next. That is how a dangerous player becomes a serious tournament threat. That is the difference between a moment and a message. And that is why the emotional balance of this match is so delicate. One player is chasing a continuation. The other is chasing confirmation. One is trying to rewrite a painful ending. The other is trying to show that her biggest win was not just a beautiful accident. By the time they walk out under the roof, this will no longer feel like a normal second-round match. It will feel like Wimbledon accidentally built a pressure chamber. Every Alex return game will carry the question of whether she can break down the serve that just removed Serena. Every Maya service game will carry the question of whether she can keep producing under a completely different kind of attention. Every long rally will feel like a small victory for Alex. Every quick hold will feel like a warning from Maya. That is the match within the match. And the truth is, nobody can say with certainty how it ends. The commentators can break down the form. The analysts can talk about the surface. The numbers can favor one player. The memory of Eastbourne can favor another. But once the first ball is struck, all of that becomes background noise. What remains is execution. Alex has already changed the history books for the Philippines at Wimbledon. Maya has already changed the shape of the draw by sending Serena Williams out. Now they meet with the past behind them, the third round in front of them, and a year-old result sitting between them like unfinished paperwork. This is not the match everyone expected. It may turn out to be the match everyone remembers.